Hello everybody and welcome back to another EPI video. Today is October 17th, 2024. We are just 19 days away from the election and I will be releasing my first ever presidential election prediction. I am very excited. Without further ado, let's get into it. First, let's dive into the national polling. The national polling looks good for Trump broadly, if we're being honest, just because it is good for Harris that she has a lead of 1.5 points, but as James Carville has said, she needs to be winning the national popular vote by 3, and I trust James Carville on that. I think it makes a lot of sense. I feel like she doesn't need to win it by 4 like Biden did, like he won it by almost 4.5. But she does need to win it still, and by a couple points. And 3 makes a lot of sense. So you can see here she's only up by 1.5, and even the recent trend isn't as good. At least the Fox News poll showing her 2. That's terrible for her. Marquette showing her tied. That's terrible for her. Rasmussen showing her down 1. That's terrible for her. You have a Marist poll that has her up 5. Marist is a little bit of a more left-leaning pollster, and not in the swing states. In the swing states, it's more normal, but nationally, it's more left, while Rasmussen's more right-wing. But there's that. You have Tip and Ipsos, which show her 3. That's good. That's good that they have her up 3. You do have Harvard Harris, which has her up 2. And you have tie, and up +1 here. So you do have the +5 and +4 of the day that are good news for her, even though Morning Consult is not that credible. Marist is relatively credible. But broadly, just looking at the average, she could be doing a bit better. It's not, I wouldn't look at national polling and be concerned for Harris, but she could be doing a bit better. So here's the way this video will work. So I'm going to be giving my prediction. If you've won states either party by 10 or more, it's safe. 5 to 10, it's likely. 2 to 5, it's lean. And anything below 2 is a tilt state. And tilt, that's very close, of course. I mean, it's what will decide our election are like the tilt states. And then, of course, I'll be filling out them for each candidate. And as well, I will be using the fundraising is not the fundraising is a factor I use, but it's not that bad for either candidate because in generals, it doesn't matter as much about fundraising as long as you're not getting absolutely swamped because it's a general election. So I think we all know that. And so what I'll be using is a trends map of geographical trends with the polling to predict it. Without further ado, let's get into this. Kamala Harris will win by 10 points or more. Hawaii, California, Oregon, Washington, Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, D.C., Maryland, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Illinois, New York, Maine's 1st District, and Colorado. So 191 electoral votes for the start for Kamala Harris. That's a big start. Donald Trump will give him for sure 10 points or more. Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Nebraska as a whole, as well as the 1st and 3rd, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri. I'll bring Iowa in because even though there was a poll that showed it within 4, Iowa is severely right trending. Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia. Oh, no, not Ohio. No way. Not Ohio for Trump, but he does get 128. So Harris definitely has a bigger start if you're talking just safe states. She does have, as you can see here, like 63 more electoral votes than him. And then if we're going to states that are likely, like between 5 and 10 points, you can see here. So I think Harris will win New Mexico by 5 to 10 points. You can see here in 2020, Biden won it by about 11. And, he did better among white voters. Trump actually did better among Latino voters than he did against Clinton, but it shifted like 5 points to the left because he was able to do that. And look at his margins in Santa Fe County, impressive. Even in Albuquerque, definitely also very impressive, much better than where Clinton was at. And Harris seems a little more maxed out with those voters, and I think I would expect Trump to gain, as the polls do show, with Latino voters. And that would likely be because it's a plurality Latino state. Help Trump get it a couple points better, like 8 or 9 for Kamala, as you can see here. Also, New Hampshire is a state that I'll give to her 5 to 10. The polling's been really good for her. She was even up 11 in the University of New Hampshire. I think that's a little much. The problem for Trump in New Hampshire is it's not even geographical trends. I mean, it's kind of hard to follow with all the municipalities, but um, the thing for him is that he's just not well liked in the state. He's not a good fit for it. And I said New Hampshire doesn't like incumbents, so they didn't like Biden. But Kamala Harris is not an incumbent, so it's easier for Kamala to win the state just based off the polling. She seems like a better fit than Trump does. She should win Maine by 5 to 10. Biden won it by 9, of course. The thing is, Maine has a lot of rural, white, non-college educated voters. I would definitely expect, at least through like polling, like the Teamsters polling, that Trump would improve a bit to get it. I mean, he'd keep it under 10, he'd improve it. It's probably like a 7-8 point victory for Kamala Harris. Not something huge, but definitely it's easier for Trump. Also, Minnesota is 5 to 10. The reason I say Minnesota is 5 to 10 is because Kamala Harris picked Tim Walz, and obviously he's not a super popular governor there, but that should help her. I feel she'll, I guess you could say, make all the farthest left voters feel better about her campaign than Biden's, especially on an issue like Israel-Gaza, which she still has fundamental problems, but I feel like she'll, out of Hennepin County, for instance, she'll get better turnout, much better than Joe Biden could have. And she has Tim Walz on the ticket. It seems better. The polling still has it a couple points closer, and she probably won't get to Biden's margin, but I think she'll win by more than 5. And then Virginia is also 5 to 10. There's a lot of 5 to 10 states for Kamala Harris. The reason I say Virginia is 5 to 10, and you can see, though, we do have a battleground map, and you can see Virginia. Yeah, she's up 6, right? Because, okay, we do have Christopher Newport University, which has her up 11, but, the Emerson Credible Pollster has her up 8. University of Mary Washington has her up 2. So, those are 8, it makes a lot of sense, and 2 is a stunningly close poll for a place like Virginia. And it averages out to 6, which I think is, by the way, a pretty good average for what's happening in Virginia. I think she does win by a bit more than the average says, but trends aren't great for Trump, but I do feel he improves in Virginia just based off polling, and also with a lot of more rural voters maxing it out as much as he can, and maybe turning a corner in Nova. We'll see. It's not a great place, but just based off polling, I would expect her to get that. And then we'll give her one more, the blue dot as they all call it, 5 to 10 points. Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. I've seen polls where she's at least 8 poll where she's been winning by more than 10. Biden won by 6. It's left trending. She should have no problem. It's the suburbs. It's very suburban. It's Omaha. Trump is a bad fit for that, and she should have no problem. All right, let's get down to the Trump likely states that Trump will likely win by 5 to 10 points. I'll just put Alaska in here because Alaska has been trending left for a long time, so I'm being cautious and not putting it in the safe column. Also, I'll add in Ohio, of course. I think Ohio will trend right just because it has, and Trump's a very good fit to the white, non-college educated voter there. I'm not confident enough that for sure he'll win it by over 10. That would be the one thing there. Maine's 2nd will probably get redder by a couple points. It could even be safe, but it's more likely it'll still be in the likely column. Like he wins by 9, because he does again well with that white non-college educated voter, and that makes sense. Florida also likely to Donald Trump. The reason I'd say Florida is likely is because it has very broad right trends. I mean, DeSantis won by 19, Rubio won by 16, absolutely huge, and Trump won by 3, which is impressive when a lot of people thought Biden would win, and he'll really accelerate these trends in the Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, potentially even Broward County, and he might even gain in Duval County. Jacksonville's been moving away from Republicans, but as well as holding his own in the Panhandle and potentially gaining in Hillsborough County and Pinellas County. So that's good for Trump. He'll probably win by more than 5, likely, like around 5 to 6 points. Texas is also, I would say, likely to Trump. I would say that's Trump's less likely state. The reason is because Texas he won by 5.6, and Kamala doesn't seem to be an incredible fit for Latino voters, but maybe better than Biden was. And the trends in the Rio Grande Valley should continue for Trump, not obviously at the same rate, but it will help him. So is the fact that Biden only gained a point in Houston. Who knows what will happen in Houston, but that doesn't seem to be helping Democrats that much. And while she may gain in San Antonio, Austin, or Dallas, that's possible. Trump could gain anywhere else, to the point where it's like it's probably going to be around the same margin, just given all those factors. We don't really know, but she's probably going to win by more than 5. All right, so this is where we get to the big 7 battleground states. I'm going to get into it. I'm not going to do this by like giving one to each candidate, then one to the next. Or that is how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to give all Kamala's swing states to her and all Trump states to him. So I guess let's see. I guess I'll start. I'll just do it randomly. So I think Trump advance, tilt wins North Carolina, and yeah, there are no lean states in this prediction. And the reason I think that is because, first of all, let's look at the polling here. Polling in North Carolina, he's up by a point, right? And all the polls seem good for him except Quinnipiac, right? At least he's tied, which is not great, but he's up 5 in Rasmussen, not super credible, but up 2 in Trafalgar, up 1 in Emerson, that's good for him, as well as being up 1 in Insider Advantage or North Star Opinion Research. Being up 2 in East Carolina University and Washington Post, that's even better of a sign for him. And so he seems to be rebounding. Robinson doesn't seem to be affecting him too much. It's a hard state for Democrats to win. Trump has been broadly improving from 2016 in northeastern North Carolina with black voters, as well as in southeastern North Carolina. And it's possible he could rebound in these suburbs just based off the polls. And even if Kamala gains, again, I'd say Trump wins by almost 2 points, just because based off polling and just based off the fact that this is a really hard state for Democrats to win. They've tried ever since Obama did it in 2008 to get the turnout for the black voters, especially when enthusiasm is likely lower than 2020. It's going to be incredibly difficult, as well as fighting off trends here and really building a campaign to gain in the suburbs outside of Charlotte. But who knows how much, to what extent Kamala Harris is going to be able to do that. So I think North Carolina is tilt Trump. It doesn't seem like Robinson's hurting him that much, as we can see in the same poll where Robinson is getting crushed. Trump is still ahead. And then, let's see, Georgia. Georgia's definitely tilt Trump. Now, Georgia's interesting. You see in the polling that Trump is up almost a point in Georgia. He's up 6 in Quinnipiac. That's very good for him. 2 in Insider Advantage, 1 in Trafalgar and Emerson, and Atlas Intel. Both relatively credible pollsters. And then Fox News isn't that good of a pollster. It has actually left-leaning bias, surprisingly, while the Wall Street Journal is fine. And that's the only really good one that's like, hey, Harris is up 2. That's a good sign. But, the polls generally favor Trump. And I'd say the better pollsters favor Trump in this mix. And here's the problem with Georgia for Kamala Harris. Biden won there in 2020 because people were super enthused, especially black voters, to vote and for Joe Biden and turn out at really high rates. I mean, look at Fulton, look at DeKalb. Like, these are really high turnout. This is what made Trump lose. The problem is Democrats are not polling as well with black voters this time around. In 2022, Warnock won probably because Herschel Walker was such a bad candidate, but everywhere else Democrats got trounced in the state. And trends could have been good if Democrats could keep the Atlanta area growing. The problem is enthusiasm is lower. While I think for Trump voters, he has a very loyal base in rural, very Protestant Georgia, Southern Baptist. And it's going to be a base that seems to turn out for him again. While Biden's, or I guess you could say Harris this time, with black voters, she doesn't seem to be doing the same enthusiasm that would be enough to actually keep the state. This was the closest state in 2020. It's the point where, with polling with enthusiasm, as you can see, it just doesn't seem like a very likely state. A lot of people think she's in a lot of trouble in Georgia. Some people think it's her worst state. And so, it's not that good for Kamala Harris. We'll go to Michigan, which I'm going to give to Kamala Harris still. I think she does still win this by like half a point. But I've never seen it more dangerous for Kamala Harris, just based off polling, which she now trails by almost a point. This came out of nowhere, because she was still leading by a point, and then Trump suddenly led by a point. It's just, I guess the liberal polls, they're just, not liberal polls, but polls that were showing Harris winning. I mean, I guess the trend just stopped. You have New York Times Siena, which has her up 1, which isn't even great for her because it's just 1. You have the Wall Street Journal, which is the best poll for her, which has her up 2. Other than that, Trafalgar, North Star Opinion Research, and Insider Advantage have Trump up 2. Quinnipiac stunningly has Trump up 4, as well as Fabrizio Anzalone, and then a local pollster, M&S Mitchell Research, has Trump up 1. You have 2 ties in here by Rasmussen and Emerson, but I mean, I've never seen the environment this bad for Harris. Like Trump's hasn't led in Michigan since, if you want exactly, July 29th. So this came as a surprise to me when he took this lead, and he really has maintained it for a couple days. And, I could predict Michigan to go to Trump eventually. The problem is I don't think it would now. Because if this polling maintains till Election Day, sure. But trends, Michigan's a state that Biden, it was close, but it wasn't super close. Biden won by almost 3. And I don't think Kamala will do as well in Wayne. I think Trump will gain in Macomb. I think Trump will gain in the rolls. I think that everybody believes it's going to be closer than what it was last time. And maybe Kamala can gain in Kent. She's not a great fit for the state of Michigan. And that's why I think Trump's definitely going to do a couple points better there. But at the same time, it is, if you look at even like the swing-o-meter for predicting by using the counties and swinging them and seeing how that affects the vote, it takes a bit for Trump to get there and actually win the state of Michigan. And so I think he'll do better there. But it's still the bluest of the swing states in 2020, and I still have her advantage. We'll see what happens with the polling, But, I mean, right now, I still have to give it to her. Nevada, I'm also going to give that to Kamala Harris by a tilt margin. I think a big thing you can take away from Nevada is the fact that, yes, Trump leads by half a point. It's also because of really Wall Street Journal, which across the board it was really close, but for some reason Trump's up 6 in Nevada. And trends have always been good for Trump in Nevada because he was one of the 7 states he did better in 2020 than 2016. And all he has to do is gain a bit in the right trend in Clark County, like by 6 points, and he wins the state, even if Washoe might shift to the left a little and he holds his own in the rurals, which he likely will do. Just because Clark has been shifting to the right, and the trends will likely continue, but by enough, I'm not convinced anymore, just based off the polls. Now, I don't believe the polls all that much, and again, this is why I'm not, just because somebody's leading does not mean they're winning the state. But if Trafalgar has Harris up 1, and that it's a very good pollster in presidential years, but it really missed the mark in 2022. If that is Harris up 1, if Emerson is Harris up 1, these are very close, and these are very credible pollsters. Then I'm going to have to say that it does look a bit better for Harris because she does seem to fit and solidify, would make sense, Latino voters, Asian voters, black voters better than Biden could to stop the bleeding in Clark County enough to where Trump gains, but still she wins. And that's what I'm seeing in Nevada right now. That's really what I'm seeing. And so it does look a bit better for Kamala Harris there. I'll go to Arizona. Arizona is a state like Nevada I'm torn on because, again, I'll give it to Trump very narrowly, but trends are good for Democrats. Polling's best for Trump. Like of any of the swing states, as you can see on this battleground map, very slightly his best state is Arizona. And you can look at the polls in Arizona. He's up 2 in Trafalgar, up 5 in New York Times Siena. A very credible pollster, not in 2020, but at least in the midterms. Emerson, he's up 2, that's good, as well as Fabrizio, and Insider Advantage, he's up 1. Look, he's only down 2 in the Wall Street Journal. That's the only one that, I don't really know this pollster, but he's only down 2 in the Wall Street Journal. That's like the one poll for Kamala Harris in this aggregate that's good for her. And the thing is, trends don't, like, Maricopa County has been trending left, and Biden won it by 2. A lot of polls show getting better for Trump. That's just not what trends show. And I could see a scenario where Maricopa gets a little bit better for Kamala Harris, but then Trump makes up everywhere else and narrowly wins. And that's more likely. I just don't get how he's gaining in Maricopa with trends. I mean, the trends just don't look very good throughout the years. And so polling has him up a point. I think it's a super close state. I think he barely wins it just based off the fact that he has that lead. I think he gains in the border counties a lot. And I think he holds his own in Maricopa just based off that. But otherwise, trends, it looks difficult for Trump, but I'm going to narrowly give the state of Arizona to Donald Trump. All right, so let's go to Pennsylvania, the state that, well, we really do think it will decide this election. So I'm going to give it to Donald Trump. Not Maryland, but Pennsylvania. And the reason why is it's very interesting. So, in depth in the polls, right? Trump leads by half a point. He's up 3 in Trafalgar. Rasmussen, and he's up 2 in inside advantage, as well as up 1 in Tip, Emerson, and Wall Street Journal, which was not as good for him across the board in other places. UMass Lowell, I don't really know him. Again, not high enough respondents that it's like 91% because there's so much undecided that it's not too bad of a sign for him. The only things that I see are New York Times, Siena, and Quinnipiac, which were really bad in the last 2 presidential cycles, but were a lot better in the midterms. So Harris up 2 and 3. That's the 2 good signs for Harris. So in terms of polling, there's that. But if you look at the geographical trends of Pennsylvania, and it's not really trending too harshly one way or the other, but here's the problem for Kamala Harris. She could gain in the Philadelphia suburbs. Fetterman didn't gain as much as I thought he would have, considering that he won by 5 points. It was more because Oz had a lack of turnout in the rural areas. And, the thing is, she can gain there. She's not a great fit for the Philadelphia suburbs, but Trump's more a bad fit. So I think she could gain 2 to 3 points there. Probably around 2. Here's the problem. Philadelphia is a problem for Kamala Harris. Trump did better there in 2020 than 2016. He'll likely do a couple points better there just because of his gains with colored voters. It's likely going to plague Kamala Harris. She's also not a good fit for what people call Pantucky, especially around the western Pennsylvania could shift a couple points to Trump. That's also concerning. She's a bad fit for that, as well as the Catholics that Biden was a better fit for. In northeastern Pennsylvania, this could be very dangerous for Kamala Harris. I'm concerned for her about this because Biden had the connection, and it was fading, and he was probably going to do worse here anyway just because people believed he was not mentally fit to serve as president. But Kamala still has a big problem connecting to these voters who are even more pro-life than you'd think. Not majority, but more pro-life than you'd think. And this could trend a couple points to Trump. This could. Philadelphia could. To the point where it could offset the suburbs, likely shifting Kamala by a couple points. Where it's really close, but based off polling, based off the trends, based off conventional wisdom we have, I would have to slightly give it to that, which means, of course, I'm predicting Trump wins the election. Last state is Wisconsin, which, again, I'll give to Trump. This one I'm actually a bit more confident in. Like, obviously, North Carolina and Georgia, I'm very confident in for Trump. Not very, but more. And then Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Wisconsin are on a lower level, but I still think it shows he's winning them. Wisconsin's interesting because he just led today. He leads by 0.1. Really can't get closer. And you look at the individual polls, it's good for him and Rasmussen. Quinnipiac surprisingly leads, as well as Trafalgar, as well as ties and insider advantage, Wall Street Journal and Emerson. The only good news is she leads in New York Times by 2, and then North Star Opinion Research also. So, here's the problem with Wisconsin for me for Kamala. Is the Wow counties she doesn't seem to be the great type of fit for the moderate Republican that's shifting away for a long time. I think she will gain in Ozaukee. But, Washington could bounce back to Trump. Who knows about Waukesha? I think she'll gain a bit there. But the Wow counties have been trending because, Trump was a bad fit for them, but Kamala's not a great fit for them either. They're not super crucial because Ozaukee is too small, and these are not going to shift as well to the same extent Ozaukee will. Milwaukee will likely shift right because of black voters being less enthused. She could have a problem in Dane because of progressivism, not turning out at the same rate. For her, because of the concerns over the Israel-Gaza war. And then Trump could just gain in the rurals. He could gain in the mini metro areas, you talk about Brown and all of these, which have, I guess you could say populations that are reasonably sized. They're pretty good populations. For the white non-college educated voter there, Trump could gain. And Trump has always been underestimated a ton in Wisconsin. Now I think the polls have finally got it about right. But to say that they're underestimating Harris, that's a little bit less likely. It does seem that's a little bit less likely just based off all the history and conventional wisdom we have of Wisconsin. I think Trump is advantage because of where he can gain geographically and because of the polling that does show him just barely ahead. So my final prediction there would be, as you can see, Donald Trump gets 291 electoral votes. Kamala Harris 247. Trump is just ahead, but this is still a very close election. And my final prediction could be different. It really could. So anyways, everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. Please comment down below and suggest other EPI videos that you would like me to make. I will make videos on your suggestions. I'm very happy to do so. Please like and please subscribe. As always, thank you so much for watching. EPI out.